this video, we're going to install the elevators and the rudder. The elevators have to go in first, otherwise the rudder will block the control hinges from the elevators. You can see this in the animation. On the prototype, we used the Dubrow 3/16 pin hinges. These are very realistic to the real ones, as you can see in the image. Fading in now is the actual prototype that we flew, and it looks very realistic. Today I'm going to install the horizontal stab and possibly the elevators. Boy, it's cold today. Colder than the balls in a brass monkey. Guess we'll have to grin and bear it. So, first thing we have to do is place the elevators into position, keeping about a 1/16 of an inch gap there. And then we're just going to mark this outer side here, about 1/8 of an inch back from the control rod. We do the same on this side, about 1/8 of an inch back. We'll take these babies out. And then we're going to just do a little cutout so that the elevators, when they're hinged, can rotate up. If I don't do the cutout, it's going to jam on top. So it's a minor thing, but we'll do it. So I'm going to have to clean all these little hinge setbacks up. And here's a little tip. I use, you could use an old credit card. I bought like, I don't know, 1,000 credit card blanks. And then I just spray glue some 220 and what is it, 360, whatever the hell it is, to the back of them. And it's great for getting into these fine places where you can't normally get in with a sanding block. So anyhow, this control rod, I think you remember from the other film maybe, but it goes all the way back to just beyond this cover, and then it angles this way into a big block of balsa wood. It's filled with expendable foam plus some goop, so it's nice and solid. And then what we have to do is we have to put another hinge, which we've made ourselves, on here, which then sets back. So anyhow, I'll show you that when we get to the assembly of this thing. Attempt number 2. All right, I've got the hinge for the vertical stab, the plate just temporarily taped in. This allows me just to get this guy lined up. These 2 tabs are forcing it to align. And now we shall, oops, it's moved on the front. There we go. Now, that should be theoretically in place. So let's see. I had to put the hinge plate in there because otherwise this is slopping around on me. And that's why the tape's on it, just to stabilize it some. This is the hardest thing with these planes. There's so much curvature trying to align everything. Anyhow, we shall persevere. I don't know whether you can see this too clear, but anyhow, this plane flies absolutely perfectly. So what I'm going to use to line up the horizontal stab in this direction is I've got a carbon fiber arrow, like from a bow and arrow, and I've taped it to the back lip of the wing saddle. Then I've looked at I'll try and show you. Then I've lined it up kind of from here and eyeballed it going, this way. And it lines up absolutely perfect with the back edge of that wing saddle. So I'm going to transfer the arrow to the new plane, and I'm going to line it up with the arrow exactly the way the prototype, because it worked perfect. So, be back in a sec. All right, I have the stab pretty much lined up. There's the arrow, and all we have to do now is glue the horizontal stabbing, which we'll use 5-minute epoxy. I had to put this weight on here because it helps just, hold that in position while the glue dries. I had to do that with the other one, I remember that. So we'll just have to try it. It's going to take a while for the epoxy to harden because the shop is around 58 degrees, so we'll see. Okay, I've mixed up the epoxy and we're gonna see if we can get this bad boy in. Like I say, it's bloody cold today, so don't know what's gonna go on. So we've got our marks all lined up. As you can see, we shall slide this in and the epoxy will spread with it. Don't give me a hard time there, baby. Okay, lining up. Okay, I've lined up the marks. I'll just double check with our template. Yeah, we're dead on. Gently take that out. And then we shall put our little weight on, which will put everything into position. So I'm going to get a Q-tip and see if we can just remove a little bit of this stuff. Let me get a cloth. We don't need gobs of epoxy flying all over the place, so let's get some of it out. I'm now making the hinge plate, which goes into the vertical stab for the rudder. So what I want to do is set it back exactly 10 millimeters. So I'm going to try and make a little jig up. This is what we're doing. What I've done is set the width of the back of the blade there to 10 millimeters, and hopefully this has come out at 10 millimeters. So let's check it. Dead on. Finally, something going right. So what I'm doing is I've drilled a couple of 2 millimeter holes in the hinge plate, and with the little template I'm going to just basically put a couple of servo screws some servo screws right the way through it so that I can remove the template later, and we'll see how it works. Let's see. All right, now it's time for the test fit. So that's the top. This is what we want to do. So pushing it up, get some tape on there maybe, and I think this is going to work. So now it looks like it's going to work. So we'll mix some glue up and off we go. Now I'm going to take some shoe glue and I'm going to transfer it into this syringe, and that's what we'll use to put it in. So it's going to be easier for us. Now, shoe goo is one of my main building adhesives. I love this stuff because it tacks up pretty quick. It also adheres to pretty much anything. Put canopy glass in and anything you want. And it stays semi-flexible. So what I'm going to do is just try and get some blobs in. So it's not a problem. All right, here we go. Wish me luck. We'll go in narrow end first, easing it up all the way to the top. Push it all the way in. That gives us our depth. Now we're going to take a couple of scrap pieces of balsa in this case, and we're going to just gently clamp. Don't want to do it too hard, otherwise it will possibly pull the vertical stab a bit too tight. But we just want to get it so the stab comes out reasonably straight. That looks like a bit too much. There we go. There. I'll let the bottom do what the bottom's doing. Okay, so she's flush in. So it's just a matter of waiting something like 30 minutes, maybe a little longer in this temperature, and we should be good to go. I'll zoom in just so you can see what it's like. There you go. And I did put some balsa blocking on the back of those holes for the hinges, for the hinge pins. I'll tell you, the best tool in my shop, I swear to God, is these new lights that I got. I got these about 2 months ago. This one's still on the same charge that it was on. They're totally rechargeable. They have 3 levels of, that's a flasher, I guess, in case of emergency. But anyhow, these things are absolutely fabulous. Dirt cheap, really high quality, but extremely bright. And I tell you, it's improved my modeling since I got these, because I can see things which I couldn't see before. So I highly recommend them. In fact, you know what? I'll put a link in the description so you can go straight to Amazon and buy these things. I think they were like 20 bucks for 2 of them or something. And the USB chargeable, and they just work great. Love them. I didn't see this glue. There's a little bit of glue that got caught. So with these lights, I mean, they're so bright. Oh, there we go. I get to see everything. They also have a magnet. Oops, don't want to blind you. They have a magnet on the back here, real strong. They have a stand or a hook, I guess. Sorry, to hook it up. And they just work so good. There's a charging jack. And they come with the cable even. All right, one little gizmo I made. I designed up this extended hinge drilling tool, which allows me to go on to much thicker stabs. The ones you buy from Tower Hobbies or whatever, I'm not sure who makes it. I think maybe Dubro is only good for skinny little control surfaces. Where this guy is good for thick ones like these. These are what, 3/4 inch thick, something like that. So just have to get them aligned and drill. Perfectly centered, perfectly vertical or whatever, and good. So I've drilled the 1/8 pilot holes, and now I'm just going to do the 3/16. I'm not concerned about the drill angle this way, but I am that way. As long as the angle this way is pretty much vertical, we should be good. That's nice. So with my little tool that I came up with, it makes short work of all these things. And we can always do those by hand if we need to. All right, here's a little tip for you. When you're using a composite part, where this wiping section goes here, where your elevators are slightly recessed in, you want to make sure you run some sandpaper down the inside. I like to put a slight little sort of bevelish angle when I'm sanding, and this will help ease any of the rotation of the control surface, because sometimes you might have just a little skunky bit of fiber in there or something that you don't normally see. So I like to just sand them all out, like here where I'm sanding now. Don't know whether you can see it. No, you can't, but anyhow, there's just a little bump on the inside, and that's probably where a little bit of cloth overlays another piece. So I'm just going to skim that down a bit, and all will be well. In the past, when I've built planes like this and not done this, I usually get some friction. But on the prototype, we did it and I have zero friction, so I'm doing it on all the production models from now on. It's been about 45 minutes since we put this little jig on. And in the meantime, I drilled out some of the hinge holes for the pin hinges. And I've also sanded, the leading edge and the wipers and a couple of other things. So just keeping busy. So let's see how this came out. I don't want to try putting the hinge in right now because it's not fully cured, but it should be, after 45 minutes, it should be cured enough for me to remove this guy gingerly. All right, and the reason I'm doing that right now is because it'll be still slightly soft, and if there's any bits in there, I will be able to clean them up, which we need to do. Well, I'm in my office right now. Unfortunately, the audio didn't record in this section, but what you can see is some of the credit cards, the blanks. I've pushed them into the wiper area of the vertical stab there. That's because it was just a little too tight, a little too much friction. So what I'm doing here is just putting a little pressure on the to push the vertical slab wipers out a little bit. The shoe goo is still just a little soft right now, which is great. So it's flexible enough that I can insert these wedges, and that will widen up the gap, as you can see where I'm pointing there. And then I run the heat gun over them, both sides, let it cool down, and when everything's hardened, it will hold those positions, which will give me just a little more space for the rudder to rotate into. A couple of things, because I'm trying to video all this stuff and I'm not exactly good at it. It's the very first time I've actually done build videos and what have you, I made a real cock up. Is first, this section down here is shouldn't have been cut out until I'd put the trailing edge hinge plate, which we just installed, a few minutes ago. And that's why my alignment's off. And also, this piece is which was part of the trailing edge, was supposed to be put in as a whole piece. And then once it's all glued up, then I cut it across here to allow the elevator controls and everything to go through. And that's where it went wrong. So basically it put this out of alignment. Now that's just my fault. It's hard for me to video and focus on the build all at the same time. So anyhow, so I laser cut a new one. And once this is all hardened up and all the rest of it, then I'll just simply remove the rudder, which is just temporarily sitting there, and I'll glue this in, and all will be good. But that's just the thing. It's kind of hard for me to make videos and concentrate on a fairly complex plane and build. So anyhow, it's my fault. So stick with it. Alrighty, at this stage we've got the horizontal stab glued in. The rudder fits quite nice in that new expanded cavity. The elevators are all drilled and the hinges have been test fitted. However, I decided, because this is going to be a contest model that we'll use in flying events, I'm going to hold off installing the control surfaces on the tail because we need to paint inside and all this kind of stuff. So that'll come later. So for now, thanks for watching and subscribing. It really helps.